2, 1. We are live for the 14th episode of Burning Subjects.
Yay, I'm ready for this.
Fine, all right. But,
So am I.
well, we're basically all ready for this because Mallets are a pretty big deal when it comes to locomotives, especially in the modern era in America. These Mallets, articulateds, whatever, they have become the backbone of American locomotive designs when it comes to strength, power, and overall efficiency, especially when it comes to compound articulateds, which we're mostly going to be talking about compounds in this episode. But occasionally we'll, go aside and we're going to talk about some other articulateds, quote unquote. But
Triplets. Michael, you're basically a silhouette.
is the silhouette of a man. I see a little silhouette of a man.
Andrew, you're welcome. Andrew, we're already starting off on a really fucking strange note.
Yeah, we were supposed to do this.
It's a shame you don't have a channel for Russian locomotives, so I'll just chuck it into general.
Russia. Oh, speaking of Russia.
I can make one. Hold on.
Just gonna.
Yeah, go ahead. See what's in the general channel now.
Okay.
I just made a new chat.
General.
All the way down.
What is that?
Apparently, that is a Russian tandem compound.
Tandem.
So it's not even articulated, but it is a compound. But
It's a 440 compound locomotive that.
Yeah, it's dumb. But let's just move on.
Let's move on. But what is the first Mallet we will talk about? None other than
Well, I think that first, to be perfectly fair, we actually got to talk about the dude that invented it all.
Ah, yes.
Mr. Anatoly
Mallet.
Anatoly Mallet, and we already have a little bit of we already started off with a bit of an interesting question: is he Swiss or is he French? Because according to Wikipedia, he is Swiss, but in various other documentaries that I watched, it said that he was French. So, yeah. It's bizarre, but needless to say, he was actually the guy who, in 1874, patented the very first successful compounding system for a steam locomotive. 1874, but I'm not necessarily talking about articulateds just yet.
Just a compound.
Just compounding in general, which can already just happen with standard two-cylinder rigid frame locomotives. I shit you not. So basically, they would have a smaller cylinder on one side and a larger cylinder on the other side. Because, compounding is all about using your steam twice.
That sounds. Why couldn't you just.
First from the dome on the boiler directly at higher pressure in a smaller cylinder, and then you reuse the exhausted steam from that in a larger cylinder at lower pressure before it's exhausted up the stack.
Yeah. But why couldn't they have just made a 3-cylinder locomotive where the two outside cylinders were the ones that were like the low pressure cylinder, and then the middle one was the high pressure cylinder?
Hold on, I do actually have a.
Pretty sure you saw what it did there.
One British example of that. Midland Railway number 1000, I believe, which was the first of a whole batch of 3-cylinder compound 440s. I'm just actually looking here real quick whether or not which cylinder was high pressure, which one was low pressure.
The real question is, were they successful?
The inside cylinder, I believe, was high pressure.
Well, were they successful?
Yeah, they were pretty successful. I maybe you got to look up some drawings of the damn thing, because trust me, this is a whole bunch of on the spot improvising right now because I'm not well educated when it comes to the LMS company.
Well, this is live for reasons, basically to test not only what we can do, but what we know.
Yeah. Yep.
What we can, just spit out in a flash.
I checked. The inside cylinder was high pressure. The outside cylinders were low pressure on the Midland compound 440s. So yeah,
kind of curious about these engines, but anyway.
So like for this episode, of course, the main kind of compound locomotives we're talking about are, of course, compound articulated locomotives.
That's our main focus.
Which are commonly referred to as Mallets. Of course, in reference to Anatoly Mallet.
Well,
you want to call him.
When he introduced his compound system, he also invented the Mallet articulated Mallet altogether.
Yeah, he invented the articulated steam locomotive. And he threw it in his compounding system while it was at it. So basically, so then the steam from the dome on the boiler would then be sent first to the smaller high-pressure cylinders powering the rear set of driving wheels, which was, basically that rear half of the frame was basically a rigid piece with the boiler. And then the exhausted steam from the rear cylinders would be fed into the front cylinders, which were bigger to accommodate the lower pressure. And, then once that steam is used there, then it's being exhausted up the stack. And again, those front cylinders were noticeably bigger because the second-hand steam that they used was colder and provided less pressure compared to the hotter, high-pressure steam that was used in the rear. And in Europe in particular, I think compound articulateds are best. They're pretty well remembered as little 0440 tank engines, for example. You think in a variety of different gauges too. So I'll chuck this one into German locomotives because I think it's German. It's.
I don't know what that's from.
I think it's.
Oh,
European.
I recognize these.
Maybe it's Swiss, now that I think about it. But whatever. You get the point. Notice how the audience obviously won't be able to see this, but notice how the front cylinders are, of course, a bit bigger in diameter compared to the rear cylinder.
Well, I wish I had a model of a Mallet because that would help a lot. I do want to get an HO Mallet at some point. Maybe a 2662 and just repaint it 1309. That'd be nice. But anyway, so basically what Jim said: high pressure at the rear, low pressure at the front. That's how I know it's compound articulated and not just a simple articulated.
Simple. Yeah, I've heard it's actually pretty common here in the Netherlands for people who are not actually that well educated with American locomotives to say that the big boys are compounds, but that's not true. Big boys are a further development of the articulated locomotive, known as simple articulateds, which came about in around 1936, because
they only have high pressure steam.
Yeah, they have because simple articulateds have 4 equal-sized high-pressure cylinders. So the steam from the boiler is directly used all at once, or at least it's directly fed to all 4 equal-sized cylinders. No compounding.
Well,
so you can't really call a big boy a Mallet because it's wrong. they don't do the whole compound shit, whereas other articulated locomotives do.
Yeah.
Not saying that all of them do it, but you have plenty of classes that are definitely that are definitely recognizable as Mallets because larger cylinders in front.
But I just thought about something.
The whole work. I mean, when articulated locomotives were introduced to the United States, it was indeed in the form of compound articulated, and they basically. Railroad executives gladly welcomed the technology to the States in, I believe, 1904, because, with this simple trick, they were actually capable of pulling, bigger trains compared to, a single locomotive. Like, you would be able, compound articulated, or Mallets, were capable of doing the work of 2 steam locomotives for roughly with just 1 crew, and I dare to say roughly the same kind of fuel cost, because with the whole compounding system, you're able to save considerably on fuel and water. But when the technology came to the States, crews weren't as enthusiastic about it.
They seemed odd, of course.
Yeah, like they actually preferred, to do the whole double heading thing because, that way the crews were able to do more work. So, with a compound articulated locomotive, the crews were obviously being replaced 2 for 1. So, you had stories of engineers and firemen not running these new Mallets to their full potential just as a protest. And then, of course, there was another concern regarding health, because big locomotives naturally were capable of producing a lot more smoke, and when you're passing through a lot of tunnels and snow sheds, you can kind of see where I'm going here. So basically, when you're passing through a tunnel with a big steam engine, especially unarticulated, you would build up so much smoke that you would be completely obscuring what little visibility you have, and even more threateningly, what's an even bigger problem is that obviously the exhaust fumes can actually suffocate the crew to death. So yeah. Oh, and Steven actually chucked in a picture of the very first. Sorry for the hiccup, but the very first compound articulated locomotive in the United States.
Wait, let me see.
The funny thing is, it was actually from the first railway incorporated in the United States.
Oh.
That's what I was about to say. That's Baltimore and Ohio, number 2400, nicknamed Old Mullet.
I want to build on.
The configuration is a 0660.
So it's an 0660.
0660.
But damn.
I love the tag that it says underneath there, largest locomotive in the world.
I found another B&O Mallet with thick-ass cylinders.
Well,
let me chuck it in. It's an 0880, number 7045.
7045.
Yeah, Baltimore and Ohio 080.
Let me see it. Oh. Whoa.
Damn, boy.
Those are damn boy thick, boy. That's a thick ass boy. Woo!
Oh, and here's the Virginian one.
I gotta play that.
Isn't that just like a Y3 from the N&W or something?
Damn, boy, he thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy. Hey.
That just looks that whatever Virginian Mallet isn't it just a Y3 from the N&W?
I'm not going to laugh.
Most likely.
I'm not going to laugh. But anyway. On to the next articulated locomotive, which is a classified as an articulated, and it's actually from the UK. This is we're gonna be talking about the Garrett.
Garrett type locomotives were actually, I believe they're all simple articulated.
Well, they're articulated, but either way.
Yeah, but they're simple articulated, so technically they wouldn't really fit into this episode. But
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll.
Garrett's
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about them another day, Dan. But what is another compound articulate? Oh, I got one.
I mean,
Big
I was
burst
gonna
off.
talk. I was giving a story about tunnels and snow sheds.
Let's talk about
Bloody shed man. You kind of know where I'm going at here.
well,
And we also got to talk about the Santa Fe 210-10-2.
you have to remind me of that.
Well,
No!
Andrew, but we have to do it.
I know we have to do it.
You gotta release out on the triplex.
No.
Those two Mallets are gonna be the death of me.
No, Andrew. That's going to be BB or Bendy Boy.
Yeah, that honestly is worse than the whatever it's
That's what I'm saying. With the whole snow shed thing. You see where I'm going at. You see where I'm going at here.
I don't
called.
actually.
Yep. When the Southern Pacific got first tried their compound articulateds, they tried the old-fashioned way with the smoke box towards the front, and it didn't really work because the crews nearly suffocated to death. So then somebody thought, hey, why don't we try running them in reverse? And it worked. The crew was saved.
But
Two new problems. From what I've heard, American mainline locomotives weren't really designed to push their tender while also pulling a train at relatively high speeds. And of course, when you're running in reverse on right-hand trackage, it means that the engineer is on the wrong side of the train. So then somebody thought, you know what, screw it, we're going to build these locomotives specifically with the smoke box facing the tender. Thus, the cat forward was born. And the first few of them were indeed compound articulated.
Okay.
It's just, they were ultimately refined to be essentially Yellowstones that were running in reverse. And simple articulated one that. But the first few of them were indeed compound articulated.
But what about the reverse cab forwards? Like that with the streamlined casing.
Those were simple articulated. I'm pretty sure they weren't simple articulated.
Yeah, the AC9s,
Yes.
these proper Yellowstones, those were simple articulated.
Yeah, those were. I'm not gonna lie. I wish at least one was preserved. That was a beautiful locomotive.
Yeah, I'm agree with Christopher too. I wish one of them would have been saved too.
That skyline casing, the white walls, There's only one problem.
There we have your 20 driving wheels of doom, Andrew.
Yes.
Honestly, Andrew, honest opinion. I don't think the 3000s look that bad.
What about the Virginian 210-10-2s?
Oh yeah,
Wait.
they're hundreds. The AE, I think, or something.
One sec.
Those are, I believe, the largest cylinders for any steam locomotive. Like they
At
literally.
least the diameter, 48 inches,
Be right back.
God damn.
and they were slightly inclined too, I believe.
Jesus, those are dummy thick cylinders.
Yeah,
Jesus.
and it turns out that and these and on the Santa Fe 210-10-2s, they were still a hefty 38 inches in diameter, but not 48 inches. Let's see. When it comes to the Santa Fe 3000s, so 10 of them were built, but apparently rebuilt from. They were rebuilt from conventional Baldwin-built Santa Fe types. So, yeah, they Frankenstein 20 Santa Fe types into 10 of these 3000s.
Yeah, and they turned them into 210-2s.
Let's see. Although they appear to have exceedingly long boilers, the barrel in front of the rear set of cylinders actually contained a first primitive fire tube superheater for further heating the steam before the use. The steam was carried forward from the boiler proper by outside steam pipes as shown in the photograph. I'm actually reading this out loud from Wikipedia. I apologize, but still. Also, the space was a reheater for the high-pressure exhaust fed into the water heater. I can't exactly see where it is, so who knows? And the space where there was also
I'm
space
still here!
Oh, wait. The feed water heater is obviously the space where cold water from the tender could be warmed before being injected into the water proper. This works similarly to the boiler itself. The fire tubes pass through the feed water tank. The 3000 class locomotives were the largest locomotives in the world from 1911 until possibly early 1914. Despite being good for helper service, they could only go 10 to 15 miles per hour before losing steam, resulting in the locomotives being rebuilt into more Santa Fe types during 1915 and 1918.
Yeah, I prefer them as 210-2s.
Still, though, they're actually kind of awesome looking.
Yeah.
There were
Either
mistakes!
of the 210-2s, I think I would go with Santa Fe.
Yeah.
Still, though, I mean, we got to be fair here. Because, even though these weren't very successful, at least they were much more pleasing to the eye and seemingly more successful than, Mr. Bendy Boiler. And, okay, hey, there.
Not
Look what's Toyo's USA locomotives. No, not the one that Jim put.
Yeah, I checked the Bendy
What?
Boiler.
What? The Skookum? Yeah, we're going to talk about that later on. But before we were interrupted by this...
That's a portion of those. I don't even understand who.
The main driving axle should be on the third driving axle on the engine unit, not the second.
Before we got distracted by talking about the rolling noodle, let's talk about Big Bertha.
Big Bertha wasn't an articulated.
It wasn't articulated,
But
it is
slightly less crap semi-articulated point.
Well, it wasn't
Honestly,
articulated.
that reminds me of the Q2s, the way that the engine.
The Big Berthas wasn't articulated, but it was a compound.
Turns out I was wrong on that. It wasn't a compound.
What?
Apparently, it copied some valve gear design from the Italians, I believe.
Nani?
Yes, rectifying one of my own mistakes.
Oh wait, hold on. Let me see here. I have a picture here that Jim may or may not like. Hold on. Okay, there we go. I'm uploading a picture of what looks like an N&W Y3.
Y3?
I don't even know if it's on the. I don't know if it's on the Pennsylvania or the N&W. I highly doubt it. It doesn't have a. I think I've seen one on the Pennsylvania. Just looks like it's like a.
That switcher pilot, though.
But that's a Y3. Glass Mallets from the N&W, and that's 2050 at the Illinois Railway Museum.
Wrong that. Even if the Fancy Adam, I would say let them keep it so they can actually dabble with some superior steam design. But
I think I finally found it. I finally found a picture of a Y3 on the Pennsy. Here we are. Here's a picture of a Y3 on the Pennsylvania.
How do you think things would have gone if the Pennsy actually, looked into making articulated locomotives?
I think they actually tried themselves at one point. Hold on. They did have the homegrown 0880, if I'm not mistaken, and a god awful 2880, but the 0880 actually looked pretty damn good. The CC2 class, apparently. Sorry, the image is a bit small, but you can see it, and it doesn't look half bad.
Oh. I was thinking they were going to look worse, but they look fine.
No, that 2880 was abortion.
Oh, it was the first image that was the...
I think the 9000 class.
Here we go.
But I think the 9000 class engines, the 412-2s, look ugly without their air compressors. They look so weird without. I mean, really, if they had the same faces as the, those 3-cylinder Oberlin types, then, when they have their air compressors mounted on the side,
I don't mind bald 9000s, but anyway, Andrew, here's the abortion in question. That's the first fancy articulated, and it looks disgusting.
We're all of us are gonna try to piss off Andrew today.
I found this weird headlight on a Santa Fe 2900 Northern. Like, it looks so weird. Look at it.
Why? Why would you do this to me? A 2900 too. One of those is
But anyway, ultimately, the Erie tried this.
No.
Yeah, now it's time to talk about the Erie triplexes.
Banker, basically.
Yeah.
So, viewers, what the fuck were triplexes supposed to be? Long story short, they were supposed to be a variant of articulated steam engines with 3, yes, you heard correctly, 3 sets of steam cylinders and driving wheels. 2 underneath the actual locomotive, so that looked like a regular articulated, and then a 3rd set of cylinders and driving wheels underneath the tender. These locomotives were intended for banking or pushing duties over steep grades, but they weren't really good for anything else because, they could only operate at relatively slow speeds. And
they had 2 problems.
Like I said, they used up steam way too goddamn much, but they weren't particularly economical because, with 3 sets of cylinders, so with 6 cylinders in total, you'd be your boiler apparently couldn't be big enough.
Yeah, and
it was too small, and when you have that 3rd cylinder, that 3rd set of cylinders and driving wheels underneath your tender, naturally, as fuel and water get consumed from there by the boiler and the firebox, naturally you get a problem that the weight that's pressing onto those rear driving wheels will diminish, and thus that rear unit will start slipping.
Which would cause wheel slip to some other locomotives.
I can talk about the Virginian triplex for a bit. The Virginian triplex was built in 1916 by, I'm pretty sure, Baldwin, and it was classified as an XA class. It was named an XA because it was an experimental locomotive. And the locomotive was unable to sustain a higher speed than 5 miles an hour. So if it was for operation in the preservation area, it'd be perfect for cast scenic railroad.
Okay, that was a roast.
when it comes to
5 miles an hour.
yeah, but it would if it was a light engine, if it was a lot lighter, it would be able to push trains up up to from cast to bald knob if you think about it. But weight wise, it'd probably kill off. It would probably ruin the track, especially through the tight corners and all that stuff. But the 6 cylinders easily consumed more steam. The high pressure steam was divided between the cylinders and the center engine. There's the cylinders of the center engine. Hold on, center engine unit, I guess. Yeah. The exhaust from one cylinder was piped to the front articulation.
I might as well just drink. Just drink my sorrows away. I don't have a problem. You have a problem. Why don't you get a shot?
The exhaust from the other center engine cylinder was piped to the tender engine. I don't know why they have to say engine rather than engine unit, but the exhaust from the front engine was piped to the exhaust nozzle inside the firebox to generate draft through the exhaust from the tender to draft through this.
I'm internally dying. Help me.
The tender had a four-wheel truck at the rear to help guide the locomotive into curve. It would back up on it. Oh, well, actually, I think that I can. I think I can.
But as I was trying to say, while the Virginian a 288 4-wheel arrangement, the Erie Railroad had 3 triplexes with a 288 2-wheel arrangement, and they actually endured moderate success with them, actually. So, yeah. And those were used on Gulf Summit grade, but the main thing I want to point out here, Stephen, if you look in U.S. locomotives, you may also see 4 gifs of James May laughing at the fact that the Virginian triplex could literally only do 5 miles an hour.
Shut up! That's why I hate them!
So, James May, the slowest human being in the history of everything ever, could walk fast.
Say to us talking about all of the articulating locomotives that we talked about. You gonna play the multiplier fuck you thing?
Also, just picture the XA triplex when it was converted into a 280.
Wait, what?
Come on, play the multiplier fuck you thing to the 3 of us. I dare you. I dare you.
It kept the same tender, and I also saw a picture of it in a model train form.
Can I see a picture of it turned into a 280, please?
Yeah, the funny thing is its number, which is the same thing as a Texas and Pacific Texas type and a S160.
The tender looks fucking ridiculous on that thing.
Yeah, the coal bunker is really fucking small.
Where
they upgraded it later on, coal bunker or something like that. But
that model, that HO skill model that you found of it actually manages to look worse.
Oh my god, that is the smallest coal bunker I've ever seen for any Mallet.
It doesn't look that small. It looks a little tall.
Actually, it looks very tall, but it's tall, but it looks ridiculous.
It's too tall and short.
Well, it could be worse. It could be JNL 58's tender.
And will. I thought you were going to be angry playing the Markiplier fuck you thing.
No, he made me laugh when he talked about the JNL 58 tender. For those of you who don't know, the JNL 58 is a 23-inch gauge locomotive that has probably the tiniest tender in the world. It's so tiny that I'm pretty sure that I could fit it in this room right here. And it's pretty crowded in here right now. That thing is so tiny.
There's a whole locomotive in here, in this room.
Meanwhile, I'm actually just playing some crooked Jade May laps.
Yeah, but why don't we talk about some articulated tank engine survivors?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
I'm
the main
a Clover,
ones, Black Hill Central 110.
or Clover Valley Lumber Company number 4.
But maybe I ought to salvage this episode real quick. But yeah, over time, while America was, dabbling with compound articulateds, they realized a little problem. They were slow. Some of them slower than James May. But needless to say, because because of the unbalanced size in the cylinders, they couldn't really go very fast. And so at some point, the compound articulated became a thing of the past. And then, as I said before, in 1936, when the Union Pacific and the Norfolk and Western had basically reintroduced the articulated locomotives, they went for simple articulateds with 4 equal-sized high-pressure cylinders.
Such as the A's and the Challengers.
Was no longer an option because, now it was all about speed.
AKA in the form of the Feder Challengers or CSA type Challengers in the Class A 2664.
Yeah. Speed and power.
Also known as the world's largest mixed traffic locomotive.
Yeah. And suddenly you had a big articulator that can go 70 or 75 miles an hour.
Well, 395.
Which is a massive improvement over the 5 miles an hour of the Virginian triplex.
You have stop mentioning
Speaking
it.
of, I actually have seen a picture of a Feder Challenger on a troop train. Hold on, let me see.
Same.
Because I was close to it.
We started with a big boy.
Well,
Let's watch some kitchen.
At first, I thought it was a big boy on there, but it's
Yeah, same.
well,
here we go. Here's the Feder Challenger on a troop train.
well, the Y6Bs, like, still, even they were still compound articulated, even though they had a certain lever in the cab which could switch them from compound to simple and just. But with the different size cylinders at the front, and with both of them being used at high pressure, it created a pretty impressive tractive effort when it came to the end run. So imagine using high pressure in low pressure cylinders. How do you think that would go? Would it go good? Would you get
High
a
pressure steam and low pressure cylinders?
Yeah, that's what happened on the Y6Bs. High pressure
Oh
would
yeah, a lot of the later Y class Mallets were converted to that kind of spec.
Yeah. And of
It
course,
was a ridiculously high tractive effort.
creating the world's strongest steam locomotive.
Yeah, 160,000 pounds of tractive effort and so forth.
Even though I invented a 5-cylinder compound locomotive that can generate 360,000 pounds of tractor. Anyway,
Yeah.
we won't talk about that.
I hate to mention that this, but the funny thing is, I was watching a Thomas episode where Diesel wants to prove that he's the quote-unquote world's strongest engine, so he puts 20 freight cars, only 20, on together, and he can't push or pull it, partially because the brakes were set on all the trucks or something like that. But
I freaking love that episode. That episode's so good.
Somebody fell into my spaghetti.
Anyway, but yeah, only 20. Only 20 freight cars in comparison to the almost 200 that a Class A could pull, or however many a Y6B.
A Y6B could actually pull up to 270, if I remember, or was it more? Because I can remember they hauled like 2-mile-long trains. Jeez. Nice cookie.
How long were the trains that the big boys pulled?
I'm not.
They had, I think, about 100 cars or so. But like, it was said that they had the theoretical pulling power. That they had the theoretical pulling power to tow a train that was 5.5 miles long.
Theoretically. But how did that play out in the end?
No idea.
The problem with locomotives nowadays is that they're not heavy enough with attractive effort.
Yeah, that's why you have to have multiple diesels on the same train.
Like, take instance, the same train that a single Class A could pull takes like 5 units. 5 units. Do you think diesels are good now?
5 Connies to pull it.
I'm looking at steamlocomotive.com at the attractive effort of the later NNWY classes. So the Y6s. Says that the attractive effort doesn't peak more than 126,831 pounds on the regular Y6s and the Y6As, and the Y6Bs don't even get above 125,000 pounds.
That's for the compound mode, though. For the simple mode, that's when it peaks the big. That's when it goes.
Oh yeah, of course. I think they calculate the attractive effort as compound articulated locomotives.
But when you bring it down to simple articulated, that's when things go to the top.
Yeah, that's when all sorts of craziness starts happening.
Yeah. And that's why I forgot what I was gonna say. No!
That's why you hate the triplexes?
Yeah.
They were slow as fuck.
Too many cylinders, too slow. It basically just
Also,
crap show.
I remember something about the triplexes.
What?
Like, in terms of your ratio of high pressure to low pressure steam, high pressure to low pressure cylinders, it was 2 to 1. Like, you had your high pressure cylinders on the middle set of driving wheels, so the ones that the set that was partially underneath the firebox. Like, both of those cylinders were smaller in diameter compared to the front cylinders and the tender cylinders. But like, the thing is, that was only the case on the inside. On the outside, they actually looked just as big on all the triplexes. And here's the really strange thing: when the steam was actually used in those middle cylinders, one of those middle cylinders would send its exhausted steam to the front cylinders, and the other one would send its exhausted steam to the rear cylinders on the tender. Which also explains why the triplexes have like a secondary smokestack on the back of the tender.
Well, guys, I need to go for like 5 minutes, but in the meantime, how do you think you would design a compound articulated? Take the time and calculate and think about what you would make for your compound articulated. How big the cylinders, how small the drivers, how powerful the boiler, how big it is. Take the time to see what kind of articulated locomotive would you build for conquering either steep grades or high-speed freight. I'll be right back.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't make the front cylinder. I don't think I'd make the front cylinders that much bigger than the cylinder. I mean, so I guess they're kind of simple articulated, but also compound at the same time.
I don't know.
Also, Jim, since you like German locomotives, isn't there a certain German Mallet locomotive in your country?
No, there aren't any There aren't any German articulated in the Netherlands.
But there is the Malley.
But,
There was that 2680 that was proposed.
I think those were supposed to the class
53 or something.
Yeah, the class 53, those super creek slugs, they were actually meant to be simple articulated.
Well, I was about to talk about the HK 94-100. Those are German Malley 4-axle locomotives.
Speaking of, these, I think this is when they were simple articulated, so I'm not exactly sure, but these are the Great Northern 2680s.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm about to post it in German locomotives. Here we go. Boom.
Oh, those are little narrow gauge things. I actually kind of tend to overlook narrow gauge, if I'm being completely honest. Besides, you want German Malays. Oh boy, there's only one proper way to do German Malays, really.
How so?
This so. There you go. 0880 tank engine. The Bavarian GT2X 4x4. Later reclassified as the Baureihe 96. In total, there were 25 of them. 15 of them built between 1913 and 1914, and then another 10 in DRG days between 1922 and 1923. So yeah, they were pretty damn powerful things. Though I can't actually look up the directive effort on Wikipedia. God damn it, that sucks. Actually, got it.
Well,
Oh my god, I just searched for I just saw a Great Northern 2880, and oh my god, I literally found some of my, I literally found some boner fuel in the related images tab, and I'm going to, right now, in the USA locomotives chat.
okay.
Here we go.
That's not even. That's not one. That's Southern.
That's something.
You posted Southern 722.
That was in the related images, I kid you not. And now it's just a bunch of pictures of Southern Steam Stars.
I kid you not.
Oh god.
Southern 722 was related to a Malay. The funniest shit I've ever seen.
Andrew,
What do you mean it wasn't fun? What?
check German locomotives to see proper German Malay.
I quit. Anyway. Well, we have one more Malay to talk about that really needs some depth.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's two more,
Or
actually.
is it Skookum?
It's two more, technically, then. So, Skookum, let's go first. Skookum, also known as number 7, lucky number 7. The locomotive, it's actually the only locomotive left in the world with a 2-4-4-2 wheel arrangement. So that's a pretty big sole survivor, if you ask me.
Probably been the 1218.
Well, 1218 may be newer and stronger, but Skookum...
And bigger.
Yeah, and bigger. Newer, stronger, bigger, but Skookum is classy. Green paint scheme, old logging company style, and the fact that it's been in such a wreck that, this thing has character. Especially the name. This locomotive has a lot of character for a Malay. Especially with the railroad that it runs on, they take care of her like a god. So, Skookum, built in the early 1900s, had a wreck, and then like 50 or 70 years later, they pulled it out of the creek and restored it to operation, and here we are, and it's in operation, and it's having a great time.
Wait,
What?
Yeah, they pulled it. They pulled it out of the. They probably pulled it out of the river.
Yeah.
In Lego City. Hey!
A train has fallen into the river in Lego City. Start the
Start
new.
the rescue crane.
Hey!
Hey!
Build the rescue breakdown crane.
And restore the
Help
fucking
the
mallet.
rescue. Prepare the
Oh, Andrew.
What?
Have you seen German locomotives?
I saw the articulator.
Yeah, I actually was able to find the track to that. Thank you, steamlocomotive.com.
Okay.
All right. Are any of you gentlemen interested?
Yes.
Okay, so the Bavarian GT2 X4x4, later reclassified as the Baureihe 96. Like I said before, there were actually 25 of them built between Hold on, I gotta look this up again on Wikipedia because I already forgot. I got Alzheimer's. Lol.
The new
25
history bankruptcy
built
sets
across-
from Lego City.
As I was saying, there were 25 of them built across two slightly different designs between 1913 and 1923. They were initially numbered collectively 5751 through 5775 because they were actually designed for the Royal Bavarian State Railways, but that obviously got absorbed into the Deutsche Reichsbahn Gesellschaft. Let's see, the first 15 locomotives had slightly smaller driving wheels, 1,217 millimeters or 47.9 inches, whereas the last 10 actually had slightly bigger driving wheels at a slightly rounder total of 1,220 millimeters or 48 inches. But everything else regarding track tip average is the same. Same boiler pressure, 15 bar or 207.6 psi. All the cylinders had the same stroke. That is 640 millimeters or 25.2 inches. The front ones had a bore. The rear ones had a bore of 520 millimeters or 20.47 inches. And the front ones had a pretty damn big bore of 800 millimeters or 31.5 inches. Tractive effort for the first batch was 57,335 pounds. So that's with the 47.9 inch driving wheels. And the other ones with the slightly bigger ones at 48 inches, a little bit less powerful, 57,215 pounds. And they were designed, but that's still pretty powerful. And they were basically built as pusher locomotives. I think they could have probably pulled a train. One of them was initially preserved to go into a museum, but sadly all of them ended up being broken up or scrapped.
Why is it that some of the more unique locomotives have to be thrown away?
Well, because they fuck about those. In fact, they'll preserve a fucking Connie. They'll preserve Connie after Connie after Connie. Then again, I should be the one to talk, and I foam over 722. But still, like there's shit tons of Connies, yet we don't have any 2680s preserved. There's no 2880.
There's barely any Hudsons. There's
but basically, when it comes to the Class 96, I do think it's a bit of a crying shame that none of them were saved.
Get away, ice cream truck!
All we really have are a pair of excellent 1 to 10 inch scale models of them, based on the second series, which there are various little differences. Like, but the big one visually is that on the second series, the smokestack was actually a little bit bigger in diameter and less tall.
I mean, they could have maybe restored more, not restored, but saved more Yellowstones. How about that? We only have 2. We could have gotten the EM1s. We could have gotten the Southern Pacific's ones. Got those ones.
Watch this. We could have gotten, I don't know.
We could have.
Whatever. It's not the UP bull mooses.
Yeah. But anyway, Andrew, you wanted to talk about another locomotive?
Yes, the more recent compound locomotive that's been sparking up the internet.
Oh yes, 1309.
Yes.
We already talked about it several times.
Yeah.
But the refurbishment is almost completed.
But yes, that's actually why we're going to be talking about it. Because this is
Still
going to be...
slow and steady because, COVID. But,
But...
all in favor of the locomotive's mechanical condition and the health and safety of the people who refurbish the damn thing.
Yeah.
Take your fucking time.
But yeah. They actually have been working on 1309 for about 5 years now, which is not bad at all. Yeah. And... And, to top it all off, this is the largest steam locomotive to ever be restored by a scenic railroad. And this locomotive is actually... I think that this locomotive has some mainline potential. Hear me out. This locomotive is so big and so, cost-effective. Well, not cost-effective, but cost-friendly. This locomotive could leave the site occasionally. Maybe go to a different area and... put on a grand show. This thing is a powerhouse. That's why they chose it in the first place.
Well, here's just to the hope that, if it ventures off of the main line, it can actually, kind of stay out of the way of any regular scheduled traffic,
Yeah, that's really my concern.
It does need to have a decent enough turn of speed to not to hold up any regularly scheduled trains.
Then again, most trains nowadays slow as fuck.
Yeah, but even then, you can still have the problem of having them run at a high frequency, so many trains an hour or something.
Yeah, but as I said, low chance. But either way, most people, as I said, forget about 734 for a little bit. It's just a Connie. It's just a chunky Connie. This is a Mallet. How many times in a lifetime do you think you're ever going to see a Mallet in operation?
So here's the 1309, I believe, providing helper service for a coal train.
Wait, what?
Picturing USA locomotives. That's 1309 at the back of basically pushing a coal train.
Oh, cool. That's actually, wow.
Damn, boy.
But you guys probably already know that I'm going to experience the thunder.
Yes, my friend Steven here is going to hopefully see 1309 in action once restored to operation.
Like around May or something like that is when I'm planning to go.
Yes. And, for anyone who is actually watching from Gmod, I'd like to announce something that's going to be happening for March. Well, maybe March. It might be earlier than that. But I'm going to be building a replica of 1309 in 3 different liveries. In Gmod, by the way.
CNO, Western Maryland, and then a modified Western Maryland without air compressor face.
Yes, actually. The third one, I'm going to make myself that it's still going to have the air compressors on it, but it's actually going to be modified to where the headlight is in the center. But you guys have to wait and see how this actually turns out. So the first version that I'm going to release is, of course, 1309 in her original CNO livery. The simplest one to make. And then, with the help of maybe Jim or some other people, we're going to get Western Maryland and the updated version of the Western Maryland with a centered headlight. And maybe we can do some other cosmetic changes. How about that?
Okay.
What kind of other, well, I guess while we're still at the stream, what kind of other cosmetic changes do you think we should do for this model? Because this is going to be public.
Well, if anything, I could probably get the 1309 handcuff reach time whistle onto Gmod for the whistle.
I don't know why.
Already handcuffed reach times on.
I don't know why, but I love 1309's original whistle. I mean, even though it's okay that it has an N&W hooter, even though it seems like it's trying to replace 1218. Anyway.
475 has a whistle like that, a low pitched, hooter.
475's hooter is a lot taller.
Yeah.
1218 had a much higher pitch hooter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But are there any other mallets or compounds that I'm forgetting?
I think we kind of went through it all.
Not a very long episode or a really
a
short
lot
one.
about the Mallets.
Yeah, and most of it was me complaining.
Yeah, you can thank us for making you become angry, Andrew. Do you have anything you want to say? Do you want to really play the Markiplier FU thing?
No.
You was talking about the Mallets?
No.
Bendy Boiler.
Oh, come on!
Oh, I see. There's a picture of 614, and then right behind it is Owen's, boner fuel.
5300.
Yes.
Wow.
Anyway,
That's been this episode of Burning Subjects. And well, if you guys are on Gmod, as I said, be open to what is coming up soon with the replica of 1309 being built on Gmod, down to the finest bit of piping that we're gonna try making this authentic.
Yes, and
I'm not. Well,
yes,
Yeah,
and
because
don't
Jim
forget
here.
that next Wednesday is going to be the Thanksgiving special that Jim has been finally waiting for.
Yes, next week we're going to be talking about the top 10 or top 15 sole surviving steam locomotives. And well, for it to make this list, it can either not be operating or can. Well, we're mostly going to focus on operating sole survivors, mostly. So 1218 is definitely going to be on the list. So no complaints in the comments, please.
Yes, and I really want Sue Line
1003.
Yes, that's what I was about to say.
Anyway.
But yeah, I guess we can wrap this episode up.
It's time to put her up, and we will see you guys next time, where we will be talking